Unpacking the day's main story, the decision by, this is developments out of the NPA's office that former President Jacob Zuma will be charged for his alleged involvement in the arms deal. Well, the person who initially blew the whistle on that scandal is Patricia De Lille, and she joins us now live. Good evening, Patricia, and thanks for your time. I remember a few weeks back having this conversation with you as you anticipated what Shaun Abrahams would need to do when considering the advice from his team, and I imagine you're feeling quite happy tonight.
Yes. Oh, most certainly. I feel vindicated. I've got new inspiration and hope for our country, that we can say that we've got independent institutions that underpin our democracy. It was on the 9th of September 1999 when I went to Parliament to blow the whistle on the arms deal, and at that stage called for an investigation. So at last, the moment has arrived where Jacob Zuma will have his day in court. But I think it's also very late. I would have loved to see this decision being made before the so-called Seriti Commission, because we've wasted millions of taxpayers' money on the Seriti Commission with a predetermined outcome that had a finding that there was no evidence to prosecute Jacob Zuma. Now, since our previous president has asked for his day in court, he's now got his day in court, and I was contacted by the NPA a few months ago, and they asked me if I will be prepared to appear as a witness again, and I said, yes, I will be prepared to testify.
You know, you talk about the Seriti Commission. In terms of your own expectations, I mean, are you hoping for a revival of another process similar to that will fully relook into the matter of the arms deal, or do you feel that this case against Zuma will suffice?
Well, I've always put my faith in the judiciary. You know, the independence of the judiciary is vital to our democracy. And again, you know, we're illustrating that no one is above the law, that we are all equal before the law. Whether you are an ex-president of the country, you will be subjected to the legal processes. And that is the beauty of our new emerging democracy, that we're able to have institutions like this, and hopefully that all of us who's going to be witnesses in this matter will be able to make sure that the truth survive, that the truth become the victory, and to show to all South Africans we are equal before the law.
Do you have equal confidence in the office of the National Director of Prosecutions as you do in the judiciary?
Well, I think the National Director of Public Prosecutions will have to do a lot more work to show that we can develop that confidence. I think the NPA is being tainted, like many other independent institutions in our country, under the leadership and the presidency of Jacob Zuma. So besides today taking the decision to charge President Jacob Zuma, they will have to do a lot more to restore the faith and credibility in our country.
Let's talk about what this moment means for South Africa. I mean, at the time that much of this case unfolded was when he was actually president, and now he is of course a former president of the country. But this case remains nonetheless important.
Yes.
Why?
It remains important because, you know, it sends out a very strong message that we are grappling with a country where corruption has become the order of the day. And that where there are allegations of corruption, they must be thoroughly investigated. People must be allowed an opportunity in terms of the alter partem rule to state their side of the case. And it's important for our country because we need to teach our people in this country that the long arm of the law will find you, and you will finally have to account and state your side of the case. But this beautiful country of ours that is being destroyed by corruption, because corruption steals from the poor people, this is going to send out a very strong message.
We were speaking earlier to law professor at Wits University, James Grant, when it comes to the actual merits and content of Jacob Zuma's case, and him alluding to the fact that one of his arguments might be around the issue of intention, and simply arguing that, well, I didn't know what was going on, or I may have been set up. Do you think that this case has enough evidence that links President Jacob Zuma directly to the corruption that he's being accused of?
You know, like they say, Kathy, it takes two to tango. I was also a witness in the Shabir Sheikh trial, and certainly Shabir Sheikh admitted to and was found guilty of paying bribes and giving money to Jacob Zuma. Now, on the one hand, you had the person who were paying the bribes, and the other hand, you had the person receiving the bribes. So I'm very confident that there's enough evidence that can find him guilty, like in the case of Shabir Sheikh, because there were two people involved here. And then Shabir Sheikh got sentenced. Of course, President Jacob Zuma then gave him pardon, and he was on the verge of dying, and he's still playing golf, and he's still alive. And it will be interesting to see whether Shabir Sheikh will actually come and give evidence in the case of Jacob Zuma, because the charges are almost identical for both of them.
And in fact, what we're seeing there, reports saying that Shabir Sheikh has been subpoenaed, and he confirmed to Karen Moon that in fact he will be a witness in this particular case.
It's going to be very interesting, because I remember when I was a witness in the Shabir case, Shabir Sheikh case, that he denied almost everything. And, you know, they dismissed the so-called De Lille dossier that I presented to Parliament at the time as being a dossier with no facts. But that dossier, dubbed the De Lille dossier, became a record of the court at the High Court in Durban. Shabir Sheikh went to Supreme Court of Appeal. It became part of the record of the courts there, and then finally the Constitutional Court. So I'm very confident with what has happened in the Shabir Sheikh case that something similar will happen with Zuma. Of course, he must explain his side. And I'm not trying to say that we must find him guilty before the trial, but it's going to be very interesting for our legal jurisprudence, these kind of cases that we are developing, to show all South Africans the independence of the judiciary.
Patricia, there are of course those who are casting aspersions on this process continuing to take place under the current leader of the NPA being Shaun Abrahams. Do you share those reservations?
I certainly share those reservations, because, you know, there was what perceived to be in the public perception a deliberate delaying tactics to announce his decision, and finding all kinds of reasons and extending the deadline and giving President Jacob Zuma more time to respond. And so he's got a massive task ahead of him to begin to prove to South Africans that he is not biased, because the NPA must be above any perceptions that they are taking sides. And so Abrahams said he's got a job cut out for him. I really think that he should also do the honorable thing and just resign now, and let's close this chapter of the history of the NPA.
All right, so thanks for coming on to Newsnight tonight. Patricia De Lille saying that she feels a revival tonight following that decision by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Shaun Abrahams.